It's time once again to go racing.
It does not get any better than this.
The pressure is really on now.
Yes, it's pole position. Lights out and we're racing in PSGL.
The first lap has been absolute chaos.
What an overtake! Oh no!
I've never seen anything like it.
Side by side again. This will be settled right at the end. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to PSGL, round number 7 of the season here on the PlayStation platform. And it is a circuit that the drivers on this console have yet to visit. It is the Jeddah Corniche circuit for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge, and joining me in the commentary box, as always, is Aidan Carter. And Aidan, it's another street circuit here in PSGL, but extremely different to what we saw a few weeks ago at Monaco.
Yeah, completely different, isn't it? It's such a... I think the word to use is bizarre, isn't it? It's a very bizarre circuit layout. I think when this circuit layout first was announced, everyone was comparing it to a butter knife or plenty of different things. It's very bizarre, but to drive on the game at least... Interesting to see how these drivers cope with this one. 27 turns, second longest track on the calendar as well. It's going to be a difficult one for the drivers.
Yeah, certainly is going to be quite a tricky circuit as well. If you weren't with us last time out for the Austrian Grand Prix, quite a different circuit to the one we're going to see tonight. Even if you weren't there, you can probably have a bit of a guess as to who took the victory. It was Matthew Alder taking his 4th win of the season on the PlayStation platform. A brilliant performance from him. We saw some quite different results as well. Dan Aiko getting his best of the season with 2nd place. Asacone was originally in 3rd. He, however, did end up getting a 5-second penalty for an incident earlier on in the race. He got demoted down to 4th, and that promoted Oggiano to his first podium of the season. These are the driver standings at the moment, and it is Matthew Alder with an 18-point lead over Isma. Max Wiesel is a further 10 points behind. Danirko and Fusilio rounding out the top 5. Oggiano, Casper, Jensen, Farby and Brock rounding out the top 10. We knew before the season started Matthew Alder was going to be in good form, and even though quite a lot of that race last time out he didn't look like the favourite, in the end his experience proved to be too much for everyone else. Yeah,
it really did, didn't he? He did a brilliant job, especially in the last 6 laps of the race. He managed his tyres a lot better than everybody else. He didn't have the fall off in pace that we saw for some other drivers, and yeah, managed the race beautifully. Like you say, never really looked like the favourite going into really all the way up to the halfway point of the race. He didn't look like the favourite, but yeah, came alive in the second race. And all of the ground he lost in the round before that in Hungary, he gained back because, crucially, of course, Isma, second in the championship, made a pretty crucial mistake towards the end of that race, costing him what could have been a podium in that race, and he fell, I think, all the way down to 7th or 8th in that race. So pretty costly mistake there for the man second in the championship.
Yeah, we did get rain towards the Austria race. Now, before Wednesday, I would have said we're probably not going to see any rain tonight, but judging by what happened in PC Tier 1, I'm not counting anything out. There is a slim chance, and it is extremely slim, of us getting rain again. I don't think lightning is going to strike twice here in Jeddah. And Matthew Alder, he's been so dominant in the Drivers' Championship that Red Bull, just per courtesy of his points alone, are leading the Constructors at the moment. You can see there on 76 points, a bit closer in this one, with Williams just 5 points back. Ferrari are in 3rd at the moment. Mercedes, Aston Martin, Alpine, Alfa Tauri, McLaren, Haas and Alfa Romeo down there on 4 points at the moment. Jeddah, we've already spoken a tiny bit about this track though. I've not seen a bad league race around this circuit. It always seems to produce top class action. 3 DRS zones, 27 corners, longest street circuit on the calendar, fastest street circuit on the calendar. It's going to be intense.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be intense, like you say. It's bizarre, isn't it, how the tracks that we don't necessarily see great racing in real life produce great racing on this game, of course. Places like Jeddah, Paul Ricard as well, another track like that always produces great racing. And yeah, it's a really, really difficult circuit. And while there are 27 corners on the track, you've got to say probably about 10 or 11 of those are corners you don't really think of. So it's more realistically about 16 or 17 corners on this track. And they are all very, very fast, apart from the very last and the very first corner. They're really, really fast corners around this track, so absolutely no margin for error whatsoever. Any sort of mistake at any point in this track and you're more than likely going to hit the wall. So I would say that this track is probably more punishing than Monaco. Monaco, you can run around at a little bit of a lower speed and avoid everything and be fine. Here you can't run that risk. If you're running at a cautious pace, you could be 2 seconds off the pace. So you've got to be fast here, and if you make a mistake, the track bites you.
Yeah, certainly. There are obviously some points of the circuit do have runoff area, but as we saw in real life with Mick Schumacher, you get it wrong, you can very easily find yourself heading off towards the barrier. And like you said, 27 corners, but you can't treat them as 27 separate corners. As you're coming through, let's say turn 4 and 5, for example, part of you's got to think about how you're setting the car up all the way to 9, 10, 11 and 12. It is going to be very difficult. 3 DRS zones, as we've mentioned. Probably going to see some tactics. We see a DRS zone on the run towards turn number 13, a long bank left-hander, slightly different to where the DRS zone was placed in real life, but the next two, there's one leading into the final corner, and there's one heading out of the final corner. So could we see some tactics with the placements of the cars, depending on when you want to take the lead, where you want to do the overtake, in a similar way to what we saw last week at Austria?
Yeah, I would say it's probably going to happen at some point in this race, whether it's early on or whether it's late on in the race. It's because not only are the DRS zones long and fairly close to one another, especially the last two, but the DRS here is very, very strong. Stronger than the majority of other tracks we've been to so far this season. So you can gain a lot of time around this track just through having DRS. And because the DRS is so powerful here, you'll maybe see a few drivers running lower wings around this track. You can get away with it, so they'll be even faster in a straight line. So yeah, being ahead going into the last corner on the last lap is a bit of a precarious situation, especially if someone's within 3 or 4 tenths behind you. They can get the run up to you onto the line as well, because of course the start finish line is quite a long way away from the apex of the last corner. So yeah, it's going to be really, really interesting. And this maybe is going to be another race where it's not about the overall fastest, it's more about who times it and who's the smartest in the race.
Yeah, you're definitely going to have to be tactical. You're definitely going to have to think about what you're doing around here. We've already spoken. It's a fast street circuit. It's one you have got to attack. Second fastest circuit on the calendar, actually, in terms of average lap speed, behind only Monza. It's probably comparable to what we see at Silverstone, but the walls are a hell of a lot closer around here. But without further ado then, let's head into the race. Let's see what the drivers have got ready to look forward to, and a few of the drivers heading out there on circuit already. We've got some up towards the first few corners. I think that is H-Eagle, one of the first drivers out on the circuit. Now, he might be looking forward to tonight. Got points at Monaco with a 4th position as a reserve. His only points of the season, and he'll be really hoping he can put in a good job tonight to help Red Bull out in the Constructors' Championship. And of course, we've got no form for this circuit. This is the first ever time these drivers have done it on PlayStation in PSGL.
Yeah, first time, isn't it? So it's a clean slate. So now someone who's maybe not had maybe the best of runs at previous tracks can kind of stamp their name onto this one, can't they? It can be their track as such. Of course, you've got places like Paul Ricard, we know, are Matthew Older's kind of tracks. That's where he's performed so dominantly in previous seasons. Someone else could maybe do that here. And yeah, it would be nice to see someone new at the front, wouldn't it? The Constructors' Battle's a little bit weird, isn't it? Because we've not had 2 drivers from the same team have a really strong season all the way throughout. It's been one driver that's done really well and the other driver's been a little bit up and down. So if maybe a Red Bull or the Williams of Wouters maybe can get up there more consistently, or Fabi as well in the Ferrari, then they could dominate the Manufacturers' Championship. It's just not happening at the moment.
Yeah, it isn't happening. But let's see what can happen in qualifying then, as Santeri takes us on a tour of this 6.174 kilometre track with 16 left-handers and 11 right-handers as he now heads around turn number 2. Getting as close to the wall as he dare, coming into 3, sweeping over to the right-hand side of the track. You can see an overtake occasionally into turn 4, but it is pretty much single file through there, taking advantage of the rather generous track limits that you seem to get at this circuit. Easy sweep through this fast part of the first sector. 10, 11 and 12 aren't really any proper corners, and it's a 30.1 there through the first sector. Now the long banking at turn number 13. Might see an overtake there if some of the drivers are brave. Gets very close to the wall. In fact, I think he's given it slight little tap in the Alfa Romeo, but seems to have got away with it. Hugs it again as he comes through 14, 15, and then slowing the car down for 16 and 17. The 17 just blends into turn number 18. This is where the DRS zone is in real life Formula 1, of course, as you get ready to spot your braking zone on the right hand side. You can see the marker zones just after the 50-metre board, flinging the car into turn number 22 and 23. Now it's all about getting a good run through here. You'll see the drivers trying to defend that inside line in the race as you come through 25 and 26, go over to the right hand side of the track, ready for turn number 27. And again, it is all about getting a fantastic exit here. We saw how easy it is to get it wrong. Just ask reigning world champion Max Verstappen as Santerre heads towards the finish line. 1:26.812 for a rapid lap of the Jeddah circuit. Falby, fastest of everyone, on a 1:26.581. Compare that to what we saw in some of the other divisions earlier. Fastest in F2 was a 1:26.180 as Jensen now goes fastest of all.
Yeah, Jensen back up to the top after a bit of a lackluster race last time out in Austria. He's more where we would expect him to see, and this is one of those tracks where it's more of a specialist circuit, isn't it? Because you have to be so committed around here. You'll find some other drivers that have a lot more confidence than other people, so you could see that one or two drivers at the very front of the field dominating proceedings. I would be surprised if we see that. We've got a few more drivers coming to the line now. Isma goes P3 already. I think a 3-time pole sitter this season, currently third on the grid. Lars Kramer will be next across the line in the McLaren. He's not keeping it to the left-hand side. In fact, he's going again on another run. He must have made a mistake on his first run in the session. Max Wiesel next to cross the line, and he's slowly derating before the line, but he does go to the top of the timesheets by 100th of a second. So very close between the top three at the moment. Both Ferraris split by Jensen at the moment in the middle.
Yeah, that'll be an interesting one to watch out for as Matthew Older goes fastest then on a 1:26.456. If you just stick to your overtake, stick to that level of ERS around the entire lap, you will end up derating if you use the hot lap settings. So some of the drivers might want to think about what points they can save it, but being such a high-speed circuit, there's not really too many around this circuit where you can afford to go out of that overtake or hot lap option. So the drivers are going to have to be careful. That is something to think about. Fusilio's a man who, I think if he gets any kind of decent performance tonight, that will be an absolute miracle. Using the pad around this well, me using the wheel around this track is an absolute nightmare. I imagine using the pad is much, much worse. Definitely going to be a struggle for him. Oggiano, surprise perhaps, getting a podium out of the last race, but he's a driver that's definitely showed some good form this season so far. Could be a dark horse to maybe take a victory in some of the races later on in this season. He heads towards the line on his second run and gets himself up into fifth on a 1:26.622. The majority of the field then has been out there for their first laps, and it is Matthew Older fastest from Max Wiesel, Jensen, Farby and Oggiano.
Yeah, solid time so far. Both Ferraris, both Alpines at the moment in the top 5 as it stands. So, yeah, pretty good runs. And at least the good thing is around this track as well, we'll probably touch on it quite a lot this evening, but it's fairly easy around this track to do 2 laps if you have enough fuel in the car, because tyre wear isn't that much of a problem around this track. It's very easy on the tyres because so many of the corners are high speed. You're not actually putting that much strain through your tyres. You're just through the corners that quickly. So you'll see a lot of drivers do 2 laps on their runs. Both McLarens have just done 2 laps, but they're still in the 27s at the moment, not quite able to get to the front. And kind of similar to what we've seen in Monaco earlier on. Of course, we're only the first ones in, but the pack is pretty much split in half. The top 9 within 0.4 of a second, and then it's a, well, 3.5 gap back to 10th.
Yeah, there is that bit of a gap then to Lars in 10th at the moment. We just saw his teammate Casper go around in 13th, had by far his best race. Well, I think performance gain-wise, he has finished higher than 5th this season, but managed to go from 18th to 5th last time out at Austria. I think trying to do that around here is going to be a lot more difficult. It's a circuit where you can get safety cars, unsurprisingly, with the walls never being too far away. There's always a possibility of a VSC, always a possibility of a full safety car, and that could really mix the strategies up. Fusilio's having to go on a second run after invalidating that first run. He's down in 17th at the moment. Seems to be a bit all or nothing this season from Fusilio. Seems to be right towards the top or struggling. His last 3 races have been 14th, 3rd and 14th. I don't think he'd be mind keeping that streak up tonight. A lot of the drivers heading out there as well. It's a strange one, this. Being such a long track in terms of distance, you think you won't actually get many opportunities, but in terms of lap time, it's actually pretty average, about 86 seconds.
Yeah, it is. It's kind of similar in a sense to Silverstone, isn't it? Because Silverstone, we kind of forget how long Silverstone is as a track. It's I think, the third or fourth highest distance on the calendar, but the lap's over in less than 90 seconds, and it's exactly the same here because you often forget actually how long this track is just with how fast you're going, but you're flat out around this track from, well, pretty much turn 13 all the way to the end of the lap. You brake twice, and you brake maybe down 2 gears in both braking zones, so you're pretty much flat out for the entire back half of the track here. So yeah, you kind of forget how long this track is, as Fusilio on his second lap on the softs does go into P11 for the time being, which is still not a bad place to be in this race, of course, leader of those that could be on the alternate strategy. But like you said, it's going to be a difficult night for Fusilio with what he uses, but if he can get anything out of it tonight, then that's definitely a win.
Yeah, starting in 11th wouldn't be the worst thing, of course, especially if you could stay within the DRS range in the first part of the race, as Fabi is absolutely throwing that car around and just throwing it a bit too much at the moment. Picks up an invalidation, so unsurprisingly, he instantly backs off. Let's see who else is on a lap at the moment. Cornet just heading around the first few corners now into 4 and 5, and it's definitely a kind circuit on the track limits here. You've got to sort of aim to put all 4 wheels just over the curb, and you can get away with it at most parts.
Yeah, you can pretty much, can't you? It's weird in the sense that the curbs actually here are painted on the inside of the track limits rather than the outside, so I think a lot of drivers can sometimes find that deceiving, but going over the curb isn't necessarily out of track limits. It's just how the lines are painted around this track. Because the walls are so close, you can't paint the curbs really on the outside of the track limits because there's no room to do so. So it can put some drivers off if they think they're out of bounds, out of track limits, and it can mess up their lap sometimes. So it's all about finding where the track limits are and then committing to them after that. So whoever can master that the best is definitely going to have the best one tonight. And I doubt we're going to see too many issues with time penalties as well in the race this evening. It's in race conditions, at least, you're not pushing that hard, and the only real places you can invalidate around this track are in the first part of the lap. So I doubt we're going to see that much of an interference tonight, as the last person to set a lap in the session is Fede. He's coming to the line in the AlphaTauri. He goes P13 on a 27.3.
The P13 for him on a 27.3. Hornet gets himself up into 5th place then on a 26.6. We are seeing drivers starting to find a bit more time. Santeri, he's on a really good lap here, and he's going to get a bit of a accidental tow from the driver in front. Goes fastest of everyone on a 126.387. Fantastic lap then from Santeri. Puts him fastest of everyone for now. Philip Walters has got himself up into, he's got himself up into 10th place. Dan Urco was slowest of everyone. He hadn't set a representative lap time. Now that he has, he's up into 3rd. So we are starting to see a few better times from some of these drivers. Max Wiesel has invalidated. Matthew Alder, he's about a 10th up at the moment. So let's follow the championship leader. 4 wins so far this season from the 6 races. 2 pole positions as well. 1 at Silverstone and 1 at France. Every time he's been on the podium, he's took a victory, as he runs very close to that wall coming out of the final corner. DRS open on that Red Bull, and in the end can't find any time in the final sector. Stays in 2nd place for now. We'll see if we've got anyone else improving at the moment. Farby on his 2nd run of the tyres. He's 2 tenths up coming through the final corner.
Yeah, looking good so far for the Ferrari driver, who had a pretty solid start to the season, then kind of fell away, didn't he, sadly? But up into 2nd place, goes onto the front row for the time being in the Ferrari, just ahead of Matthew Alder. But yeah, Santeri's made a good old impression, hasn't he? It's obviously his first race in this championship was last time out in Austria. Had a great qualifying. Race didn't quite go his way, obviously, with that alternate strategy, trying to stay out for the rain, and it didn't pay off. But either way, he's made a good impression in this championship so far, and to be on provisional pole in the midpoint of this qualifying session again is very good, and could be a kickstart to Alfa Romeo's season that they so desperately need. But as we say that, Asacombe now goes to the top in the AlphaTauri. That's a really good lap from him. Yeah,
Asacombe goes fastest of everyone. Was looking fantastic in the first sector. Purple there. And I think that has already actually been beaten by Matthew Alder. So 126.3 then for Asacombe. Gets well out of the way of the car behind, and that's what you're going to need to do around here. If any of these drivers get caught out with any fuel burning, like Alvaro Cavaton did in PC, of course, it is very easy to pick up a 5-second penalty. If you do accidentally block a car, there is not much visibility around some of these corners, and that was a concern that the real drivers pointed out. Might be something that we see changed ahead of the Jeddah race in just over a month's time, I think. Casper comes round the final corner, a 10th up in the first 2 sectors. Needs to find a bit more if he wants to get himself off the foot of the table at the moment. And even though he does improve, he stays in 17th for now. So, after the second runs from the majority of drivers, Asacombe is fastest. Well, I say that, Max Wiesel just goes fastest of everyone. And that is quite a margin. 2 tenths of a second. Max Wiesel goes fastest. 126. 162. Probably a driver that feels like he should have had a win by now, and if he qualifies like that, tonight could be a fantastic opportunity.
Yeah, definitely could. That's a brilliant lap time. And we were saying as well, obviously, how fast this track is. You forget how long it is. With the track being so fast, it's hard to find big time differences around this track, apart from really in the first sector. But Max has definitely found something there. That is a brilliant, brilliant lap time. And crucially for that as well, he has purpled all 3 sectors by the looks of things. Actually, not quite. He is just half a tenth off of Matthew Older in the first sector. But my, oh my, his last sector is really, really strong. So brilliant lap time for Max. We'll see if anybody can get close to it. But at the moment, it's looking like kind of a 5-horse race, isn't it, really? You've got Max, Assacombe, Santeri, Fabio, Matthew Older at the front. Nobody else really seems to have that much. We haven't seen the best of Jensen and Denerco yet, but the fact that they've not been able to improve on their second runs maybe says all that we need to know about their qualifying so far.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to be honest, with Matthew Older, we've seen this before where qualifying, if he does have a weakness, you'd argue qualifying can be his weakness. Sometimes just invalidates a few too many times in the qualifying session. Sometimes has to leave it extremely late to set a big lap time. We saw that, I think, in Hungary as well. We saw that in Austria, leaving it quite late on in the session to set a good lap time. But normally when he does, he is right up there. As Lars Kramer has retired from the session. That is in the pits, I believe. So he's not going to be going any higher than 13th place. Quite surprising to see him retire that early on. This being a street circuit, you would expect a bit more track evolution than you'll get at some other tracks. And drivers like Santeri, like Max Wiesel, like Assacombe really proved that there were some massive improvements to be found around here. But everyone just starting to make their way out of the pit lane, starting to get ready for their final assault on this, well, Formula One's newest circuit. And it's not a circuit where drivers are really going to get too much chance to get used to it. It's only a temporary facility before Saudi Arabia, which will be staying on the calendar, builds another track, which is rumoured to be the longest and one of the most complex we've seen for a long, long time. Will knock Spa off its throne as being the longest circuit in Formula One. But Jensen, he's now heading around the final corner, getting ready to take us on a lap time. And Aidan, why don't you take us around this circuit?
Here we go then. On board with Jensen, we'll see what he can do. Currently 7th on the grid then. Long old run down toward turn number 1 as he hits the brakes just after the 100-metre board. Gets it turned into the apex. Maybe a little bit hot into turn 1. Compromises run through turn 2 and then through the kink of 3. And now it's the test for me to keep up with the corner numbers in this first sector then. Turns number 4 and 5. He gets straight through those nice and neatly, and then it's 6, 7 and 8 in quick succession. Make sure you don't take too much of the curb on the outside. It can split you wide for 9 and 10. He keeps it within track limits quite nicely there, actually, through the first sector, and he is a 10th up in the first sector. Still not the best we've seen so far. He's about 2/10 off the best we've seen from Matthew Older as he heads through the turn 13 hairpin, and again, just a little bit of understeer there, maybe outbraking himself just a little bit into the corner. Through 14 and 15, and then it is 16 and 17, a very quick chicane. Crucial you don't make a mistake through there because you are pretty much flat out all the way down, apart from this slight braking zone at the end of what in real life is a DRS zone, but not in this game then as he heads up towards this famous corner. We've seen many crashes here in real life, but through the corner, Jensen keeps it nicely within track limits, nice and neat through there, and then into the final part of the lap then through the kinks of 25 and 26, and then he'll jump back to the right-hand side of the track for the best run through the final corner. Santeri keeping out of the way nicely, late on the brakes once again for Jensen, gets the car turned in a little bit early, but gets the car nicely on the power on the outside, just kisses the wall, trying to get the most out of the track he can, keeps it to the left-hand side for the line, crosses the line, fine 0.2 of a second to go P2. That's a good lap, but it is still 0.2 off the fastest.
Yeah, great middle sector actually there by Jensen, even though it did perhaps look as though he got it wrong tiny bit coming through turn number 13. Managed to keep the pace up and did go fastest of everyone in that middle sector. So that's going to be his qualifying run over. 1 minute to go. And let us know in the chat who you're predicting for pole position. And if you want to make some more F1 predictions based on the real life, make sure to check out our sponsors here at PSGL, Grid Rival. The link is in the chat for their various different tours that they use for their fantasy Formula One League. I know I've got mine sorted out. Kevin Magnussen is an absolute bargain, by the way, in case anyone wants some advice. As Denerco, he's improving at the moment. He's about 2/10 up on his personal best, so this could provisionally put the man who finished second in the race last week second in qualifying as the Aston Martin heads towards the finish line. What's it going to be from Denerco? 1:26.276 puts the Italian into second place. We are really starting to see the drivers set some good times now. Brock, he's up in the first 2 sectors. Cantwell, he moves in all 3 only ends up staying in 11th place. Santeri, he's found a bit more time, but he's only a 10th up at the moment. That time from Max Wiesel still looking very good.
Yeah, still looking really strong, isn't it? I can't see anybody at the moment getting close to it as it stands. Matthew Older, he's not going to get close to it unless he nails his final sector across the line. He does nail it. That was a brilliant final sector for Matthew Older, but he's 4 thousandths off in the end. He can't get pole. Santeri goes up into third with a good final sector for himself as well. So at the moment, no one can get close to Max Wiesel. It's all about whether Max Wiesel can beat his own time. Fabi's invalidated in the other Ferrari. Max has gone even faster in the first sector. He is flying. Could he possibly dip into the 25s? If he nails this middle and final part of the lap, this could be a massive lap time for Max Wiesel, and it would really stamp his authority on proceedings tonight. The other driver that's improving at the moment is Asacone, currently P6. Cornet crosses the line, goes fourth, just ahead of his teammate. Asacone will be next, but I doubt anybody's going to get anywhere near Max Wiesel anymore.
Yeah, Max Wiesel, he's gone purple as well in the second sector. We'll see what Asacone's doing as he heads towards the line. I think he will be a bit delayed, actually, with his time showing up. It was earlier on, but that is good enough for third place. Max Wiesel, he's nearly 2 tenths up at the moment. He's drifting round the final corner. This could be the first lap in the 125s we've seen on the PlayStation in qualifying. Just misses out, but he improves again. His lap earlier on was good enough for pole position. 126.093 from Max Wiesel. Absolutely, I say destroying. The only man who got close was Matthew Older, but that is really a marker down, knowing that you've done 2 laps faster than what anyone else could have done. Casper's invalidated, so he will be the final qualifier. I think he's the only person out on a lap at the moment. We've still got Brock going around, but he's not improving. Daderko also just heading straight back towards the pits. So it's a second pole position of the season for the oldest man in the field, Max Wiesel, proving that experience really does count here at Jeddah. And alongside him will be the championship leader, Matthew Older.
Yeah, that's an interesting front row, isn't it? Max Wiesel, of course, the first time he was on pole, he lost it with a mistake, of course, in Portugal in the first round of the season. So great opportunity for Max to make this up and finally get that first win of the season. But every time we write him off in qualifying, he's right back up there again. Matthew Older, second on the grid. And Asacone as well. That's a surprise, I've got to say. Asacone's been a bit up and down this season so far, but third on the grid for him, that is a brilliant qualifying for the AlphaTauri driver.
Yeah, and another interesting point, he is in the pits, but Isma, he's in 11th, so outside that top 10, will get himself a free choice of tyre though, so that might not be the worst thing for him. But it is Max Wiesel, the German, on pole position by 73 thousandths of a second. Matthew Older alongside him, another good, well, following on from a good race. Asacone gets a good qualifying here in third. Santeri in only his second race, starting on the second row of the grid. And all Aston Martin third row with Cornet and Daderko. Jensen, Fabi, Valters and Aggiano round out the top 10. Isma, second in the championship. He'll be starting 11th, really hoping he can make things work on the alternate strategy. He's only just over half a second off of pole position. Brock is in 12th. Fusilio will be 13th, and then it is H. Eagle, Lars Kramer, Fede and Casper rounding out the 17 drivers at this track. And Max Wiesel, again, just absolutely superb qualifying pace. We've seen this a few times from him. It's been about 50-50 so far as to whether he can do it in the race, but the fact that he's done it twice really makes me think he's in good form for tonight.
It definitely does, and even with that final sector on that last lap as well, he made a mistake and still improved, so there was yet more time in that lap. He was very, very close to a 25. So yeah, it's hard to bet against, isn't it? It's really hard to bet against him, but every time we say that it's going to be someone else, Matthew Older springs a surprise, and the race is a completely different thing. We've already talked about DRS strategy around here as well as regular strategies. This track doesn't really feature tyre wear, so these drivers can go at it pretty much for the whole race. So it's going to be difficult for Max, but at the moment this looks like his best chance all season long.
Yeah, certainly, and that's something the drivers are going to have to think about outside the top 10. Do you go for the mediums, knowing that if there's an early safety car, some of the leaders can come into the pits and take a set of mediums perhaps? Definitely very close to the end of the race, if not to the end of the race. Or do you just start on a set of softs, be quick early on, but perhaps knowing you're losing a bit, and that alternate strategy? These are the difficult decisions people have got to make, and, you know, you've got to do the same if you're doing a Fantasy Formula 1 as well. So we're going to thank our sponsors, Grid Rival here. As you can see there, the link there, premiersimgl.com/Grid Rival, and check it out in the chat in the description as well for the affiliate link there with all their management tools and the predictions that you can make as part of the Fantasy F1 season and join the PSGL affiliate league as well. But for tonight, all that we're focusing on is the 17 drivers that are taking on the 27 corners of the Jeddah Corniche circuit. 6.174 kilometers, 3.836 miles with those 27 turns, 16 to the left, 11 to the right, 3 DRS zones. Means that unlike most street circuits, we can probably guarantee quite a lot of overtaking as we have a look at what tyres everyone has gone for. And in the end, it is the pretty normal strategy of everyone inside the top 10 on the softs, everyone outside the top 10 is on those medium tyres.
Yeah, I'm not surprised by that whatsoever. I mean, starting on the softs here, if you're outside of the top 10, it's not really worth it. You've got to say the softs aren't, the gap in pace between the softs and the mediums isn't that big, and you're only going to benefit from using the softs if there's an early safety car and you catch those out. But then again, there'll be 10 other drivers in front of you on the same strategy, so you've got to go for something different. And yeah, you're very, very unlikely to see the hard compound tyres here. I think you will only ever see the hard compound tyres unless someone's maybe made a mistake with their pit strategy. So yeah, not surprised with the call for the mediums. It's now just about whether they can keep up in the early phases of the race.
Yeah, definitely. It's now just whether they can, like you said, keep up. Whether everyone can keep it clean in the first couple of laps. Quite a heavy braking zone down towards turn number 1, and as we saw in the real-life Saudi Arabia Grand Prix way back here. Well, I say way back, it seems like it wasn't too far ago, but it was December. It was last year, of course. Can be quite controversial on the first lap. And also, if we do get a safety car, safety cars breed safety cars. This could well be an extremely interesting race. Isma, lead car on the alternate strategy, down in 11th place. His main championship rival, Matthew Alder, is leading. He takes a victory tonight. He's guaranteed to be leading after the break week, which comes after next week's Belgian Grand Prix. But he's in second, and Max Wiesel is on pole position for the second time this season. Can he become only the third different winner we have had all season? As Casper gets into his grid slot, can he pull off a fantastic result from the back of the grid once again? The 17 cars are lined up, and we wait for the lights to come on here at the Jeddah Corniche circuit. We've got 5 lights. They go out, and we're underway for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. What are the starts like? It looks like a pretty decent start from Max Wiesel there. Asako trying to go round the outside of Matthew Alder at turn number 1, and he's managed to make that stick, and Santeri's going to attack our championship leader as well. So it's Max Wiesel in the lead, Asako in second, Santeri in third for 2 Aston Martins getting very close together. Cornet getting ahead of Danerco there, who had to back out. There's been a yellow flag in the background. That is Fede, who spun round at turn number 1. Doesn't look to have any substantial damage on his car, so hopefully he can carry on without a pit stop. I think Casper was involved in that one as well. He's also dropped off the back of the field as they head round turn number 13 for the first time around halfway round this circuit. Is Max Wiesel with a 7/10 of a second lead over Asacombe. Matthew Alder in third place, and the Red Bull just didn't really get going off the start line.
Yeah, kind of got caught napping weirdly off the start, didn't he? He just didn't react to the lights going out. It wasn't as if he got loads of wheel spin. He was just slow to react to the red lights. So, yeah, got jumped by Asacombe on a fairly short run towards turn 1. So that could be crucial for his race, especially if Asacombe can't keep up with Max Wiesel. And at the moment, Max is draining all of his ERS to try and gap the AlphaTauri. It could work in the early phases, but crucially, as you see there, Max has used too much for the lap and he's already derating at the very end. You do have a limit on how much ERS you can use in a lap, and he's used up that limit. So in doing so, he's going to be very slow at the start of this pit straight, and that's just going to bring Asacombe right back into play once again.
We saw this in qualifying, of course. Max Wiesel derating quite early on in the straight compared to some of the other drivers, but we'll have to see if that's a problem he faces for the rest of this race as well, and that could leave him vulnerable once the DRS becomes active, and could also make it a lot more difficult for him to overtake anyone as well. But Max Wiesel, he's leading this race. Casper having to come into the pits, and we said this is a danger if you start at the back on the medium tyres. He's had to put on the softs, new front wing. I think any chance of Casper getting any points now really does rely on there being a safety car. But Max has already got that gap up to about 1 second, and this is worrying for all those further back, because with the pace he's shown in qualifying, if they can't get him in DRS, he could just drive off into the distance, Yarn want me a style.
Yeah, we've not seen this so far this season, really, have we? We've not seen anybody just drive away. Oh, Asacombe's dropped it. Asakoma's dropped the car coming out of turn 17. I don't think he's hit the front wing, so he should be able to keep going. But that is a crucial mistake from the AlphaTauri driver under no pressure, has just spun the car on his own, and that's him down. He's now down to the back of the field. That is such a shame for Asakome, and that puts yet more of a gap between Max and Matthew Older, who's back up to second. It's going to be a real push for Matthew Older to get back within range, and Matthew Older's actually used more ERS than Max, so Matthew Older not sitting in a good position right now.
No, not good idea for Matthew. Not good at the moment for Matthew Older, and again you can see him just using quite a lot of ERS down that straight. Max Wiesel does set the fastest lap of the race, and Terry, he's up into third at the moment. DRS is enabled. First time they'll be able to use it is on the run out of turn number 10, 11 and 12 towards that long banked left-hander at turn number 13. With the gaps at the moment, I can't see anyone really going for the overtakes, but Santeri's doing a good job on his ERS. Of course, you do save it by lifting and coasting on the brakes as well. He's got 68%. Matthew Older is at 20%, and he's really burning it at the moment to just try and get himself within DRS range. And Max Wiesel, he's burning his to try and keep Matthew out of DRS range. All the tactics you've got to do in modern Formula 1, of course, as if drivers don't have enough to think about threading their cars through the walls here in Jeddah. But it is still the Ferrari in the lead from the Red Bull. Alfa Romeo in third place. They've only had 4 points all season, so this would be a fantastic result for them with Santeri in third. Aston Martin looking good as well in fourth and fifth. And further down the field, crucially, those on the mediums are still within a second of the soft runners.
Yeah, they're doing a good job at the moment. ISMA keeping tabs with Occhiano in 9th place, so doing a solid job. Back to the leaders, though. Here's the problem for Matthew Older in pushing. He's used all of his ERS, and there goes Santeri down the inside into turn 27. Gets the move done on the Red Bull, but will Matthew Older then just breeze straight back past him again down the pit straight? He's not got a lot of ERS to do so. Santeri's got a lot more in his back, so Santeri here could be the one to put the charge on as he sets the fastest lap of the race. And look at the straight line speed that Alfa Romeo's got with no DRS. The amount he caught Max Wiesel down the pit straight was quite a lot. So maybe Santeri's the one to catch up with the Ferrari. It's all dependent on this first sector where Max just looks country miles ahead of the rest of the field at the moment. And yeah, Matthew Older burning all of his ERS in the opening couple of laps, put him vulnerable and dropped him back down to third.
Yeah, definitely. But this could in a way be a blessing in disguise for Matthew Older. If he can just stay behind Santeri, save a bit of that hybrid energy and just stick in his wheel tracks. Might be able to go for an attack later on in the race. Might be able to make things work on an undercut. How many times have we thought the two-time former PSGL champion was out of a race this season, and how many times has he ended up standing on the top step on the podium? Still early days. It doesn't look like he's got the pace yet, but he'll be a very brave man to write off Matthew Older. Brock's had to come into the pits. He must have had damage as well. He's now onto a set of hard tyres as Casper becomes the first man to pick up a time penalty. Really not going well for the veteran, the former esports driver. But at the front of the field, really is going well for Max Wiesel, just keeping that gap at about 1.3 seconds at the moment. He'll really be hoping that Santeri doesn't get within that magical 1 second window, because he's got a bit more ERS, and with the DRS, that could put the Ferrari under all sorts of pressure. And Matthew Older, he's a bit closer this time coming through the final corner. He's got a bit more of that electrical energy, so we'll see if he will swap round with the Alfa Romeo. Just closes slightly on the run towards the first corner, and I think this is going to be a very straightforward pass for our championship leader. Up he goes into second, and if they work together, of course, that could help them close to within a second of the Ferrari.
Yeah, definitely could work, couldn't it, if they can get within range. And Max Wiesel on that last lap used a lot more ERS to try and gap Santeri that little bit more, and couldn't really do so. So now he is in a bit more of a vulnerable situation in that Ferrari. It's just a case of, has Matthew Older got the pace to get within that 1 second range? Not quite for the first DRS zone, but Max with a little bit lower ERS is going to derate maybe a bit earlier than the Red Bull. I say that, but Matthew Older's just burnt all of his ERS down that short straight up towards turn 13. So they're really draining it at the moment. And while it may be good now for Matthew Older, it's just going to put them under more pressure. Santeri a lot more ERS. The person that's sitting most pretty at the moment is Denurko in 5th with 90% of his battery. He is just sitting and waiting for maybe everybody to pit. Maybe he can come in a little bit earlier and undercut them and use that bank of ERS he's got to jump a lot of these cars.
Yeah, definitely. That's normally what you see when drivers come into the pits. They do really throw all their ERS out on one lap. You do save loads in the pits, as Casper picks up another time penalty. He's just invented his own circuit at the moment. Matthew Older, he has 2 warnings already, so he's got to be very careful over the next 20 or so laps. And also Max Wiesel has one as well. Santeri, you just saw there, all over the rear ring of the Red Bull driver. And I feel with the red light flashing on the back of the Red Bull, he's going to get himself up into second place here. And the Red Bull driver, quite wisely, decided not to battle it on this occasion. So these two still swapping around, still working together. Santeri gets himself back into second place. And that's going to frustrate Cornet, Danerco, Farby, Jensen, Valters, Oggiano. Basically all the way down to Lars Kramer, who is on the back of this 11-car DRS train at the moment. Are we going to... We might only be a couple of laps away from someone on the set of soft tyres towards the back of this train thinking, do you know what, if I come in now, come out in some free air and let's use some tyres, as there is the 3-second time penalty for a championship leader. And look at the Aston Martins going at it.
Yeah, Werner, Danerco's all of a sudden charging all over the back of Cornet here. I'm certain it's going to be Danerco or Farby into this pits early on. You can come in from about now and just about get to the end of the race on a set of medium compound tyres. It's risky, but at the moment it's worth the risk. Matthew Older, crucially, Santeri's caught Max Wiesel, but Matthew Older's on the bubble of losing DRS to Santeri now. So not only has he picked up a penalty, but his pace seems to have dropped in his last couple of laps as well. He has not got DRS range, I don't think, through the detection point now. Yeah, he's not within it. So Santeri's caught the leader, but has dropped Matthew Older in the process. So a bit of a cork in the bottle is the Red Bull. Cornet surely here is going to have a good run on the Red Bull if they don't come into the pit lane. Santeri thinking about a move into the last corner, but he can just wait for the pit straight. Yeah, bizarre to see Matthew Older struggling so much, but first of our real leaders with a time penalty, and is just falling away from the leaders, and now he's out of the podium places. Cornet breezing down the inside without a care in the world. Danerco could make it 2 Aston Martins through on the Red Bull, and he does so very easily. That is why he has that bank of ERS, so he can make easy moves like that.
I did not think this going into this season, never mind going into tonight, I would be hearing anyone say the Red Bull of Matthew Older is the cork in the bottle. But yeah, seems to just be struggling at the moment. Whether he ran wide, whether he tapped a wall, I'm not so sure. Doesn't have any damage showing on the TAS system. Use !help to get all the commands to find out how your favourite drivers are doing in the chat, of course. And we have also got the stream elements bot here as well. You can use !standings as well as many other commands to try and find out about the season so far. But Matthew Older, with that 3-second time penalty, it's very early on to get one, so needs to be careful for the rest of the race. Other drivers maybe possibly might get them as well. But with how close the field is as well, he's really struggling. He could perhaps be the first driver to come into the pits just to get off these soft tyres, get himself some free air, and maybe try and get himself back into this race. Farby able to follow him really close on the run towards 22 and 23 here. Obviously, that Red Bull's still in the DRS range, so not a lot he's going to be able to do. But Santeri at the front of the field, you could argue he's broken away slightly. Was up to 0.6 of a second there. It's all going to close up, of course, as the Ferrari, the Aston Martins and everyone else in that DRS as Farby round the outside. And Matthew Older at turn number 27. That's not something you see too often. And he's managed to make it stick. He's up into 5th place. Matthew's into the pits. And so is one of the Aston Martins. Cornet and Matthew Older, the first of the leaders to blink at the end of lap 7.
Yeah, not surprised. And at the same time, Max Wiesel gets the moves done on Santeri into turn number 1. So good opportunity here for Cornet here. If he can get out of the pit lane into some clean air and get some good laps in. He was 4th in that queue. So, sorry, he was 3rd in that queue. He was ahead of Danerco. So he could jump Max Wiesel and Santeri here, especially with them battling slightly into the first couple of corners. Out of the pit lane then comes Cornet. He's going to be just ahead of Philip Wouters at the moment, who's dropped a bit further back. Fusilio now with the time penalty as well. Isma, crucially, has lost DRS range to Oggiano on that lap and has burnt all of his ERS. So the mediums, of those that started on the mediums, don't look particularly fast at the moment. They've not got a lot of pace. What can Cornet do on the mediums now? He's got 6 seconds of clean air, and he's got Matthew Older right behind him. The last thing these two need to do is battle.
Yeah, if they work together for a bit, maybe just swap places on this lap when they've got a chance, that could work out. But I think Cornet knows if he lets Matthew Older past him, he might then get stuck in a DRS train all of a sudden. So that's something for these drivers just to think about, just to play it tactically at the moment. But that gap, as you can see to the leaders, just hovering around 18.4 seconds at the moment. It's not really coming down to Max Wiesel, so they're doing a pretty decent job, all those two leaders. As here comes Santeri all over the back of Max. Once again, the red light flashing on the back of the red car, and I think we are going to see maybe one, if not both of these drivers come into the pits. Danerco stays out, Farby of course staying out as his teammate has come in, and I think that's Jensen who has come into the pits as well. So Danerco now leads by a second from Oggiano. Isma in 4th, lead car of the medium runners. Where is Matthew Older going to be relative to these drivers? He's got ahead of Cornet. Is he going to be able to jump himself ahead of Max Wiesel and Santeri? Watch out for that pit exit. It just sort of feeds you round the outside of turn number 2. Max Wiesel is clear. It's going to be close with Santeri, but he's just stayed ahead of the Red Bull.
Yeah, just about. That is... Whew, that was close, wasn't it? Santeri a bit slow to get out of his box in the pit lane, so he's dropped a bit of time to Max Wiesel on that lap, but crucially ahead of the Red Bull, like you say. So back into a net second position on the road. And yeah, Matthew Older and Cornet couldn't use that undercut, really, could they? They couldn't do anything with it. So yeah, it doesn't look that strong. Now we've got to wait to see how Denurco, Fabian Oggiano now fit into this as well. Denurco burning that reserve VRS that he had to try and get back into this race and get a bit further up, and in fact has set his personal best first sector on this lap. So Denurco pushing now on these softer tyres. The undercut's not working, so Denurco could still be a factor in this one.
Yeah, I think at the moment, if he comes into the pits on this lap, he will possibly slot into that gap between his teammate and the Red Bull and Matthew Older just ahead of him. So that's going to be... It's going to be intriguing. Won't have lost anything out. The only thing he'll have gained is the fresher tyres. But 1 or 2 lap fresher. He does just get a little twitch out of the final corner. Not really a massive gain, as I think we are going to see all these 3 lead cars come into the pit. So that is now Isma leading a race. Once again, winner of 2 races so far this season. Fusilio closing all over the back of him, so he's not going to be leading for long. Down the inside goes to Mercedes. And Fusilio, despite his 3-second tyre penalty, takes the lead of this race. Lars is in 3rd, and we'll just see where the drivers are going to come out of the pit lane here. There is Matthew Older all over the back of Santeri, and yeah, they are in fact comfortably clear of Denurco, who does end up actually dropping behind his teammate, not in the end, slightly ahead of him. So after all the lead cars have pitted off their soft tyres, it is Max Wiesel in the net lead, back up to over a second ahead of Santeri. Matthew Older back into 3rd place, but with that time penalty. Cornet in a net 4th, Denurco a net 5th, then Valtters, Fabi and Jensen. Oggiano's behind Fede as Brock picks up his first penalty. Casper becomes our first retirement. We are down to 16 runners, and these lead cars at the moment are about 9 seconds off those on the medium runners, and very shortly Max Wiesel will be catching up to the Red Bull of H-Eagle.
Yeah, and he could be catching up in a fairly good part of the track here. He's very close to a DRS lane, but again, Max Wiesel has drained all of his ERS to try and gap Santeri, and we saw how that played out the first time. It didn't work in his favour, so I wonder if Santeri is just going to play it safe now and then charge at Max once he's got past H-Eagle. And I'm surprised that those on the alternate strategy don't seem to have a lot of pace at the moment. They're all fighting with one another as well, and they just don't seem to be able to... They weren't able to keep pace with the soft runners at the end of the stint of that last one, and they don't have the pace now. So this alternate strategy is not looking good unless the soft tyres are very fast at the end. And in fact, Lars Kramer is going to try and get 2 for 1 at turn 1, down the inside of Isma, but doesn't get the move done by the looks of things. It's going to have to be a good exit from turn 2, which actually he does get, and he powers past Isma, who drops another place. And this has been a poor showing from Isma so far tonight. This has definitely been probably his worst performance of the season so far, as Fabi and Jensen now go side by side for 11th on the road, and Fabi gets the place.
Yeah, Fabi just sneaking ahead of Jensen there, so that drops the Alpine into 12th position. At the moment, Max Wiesel did get ahead of H-Eagle. He's now actually pulled that gap out above Santeri. That's the gap he'll be most bothered about, to 2 seconds, the highest it has been all race. So Max Wiesel, something you don't really see too often at Saudi Arabia, apart from in the top tier of the PC, and clearly in the top tier of the PS. We are just seeing the drivers being able to escape ever so slightly. Fusilio in the lead though, Lars Kramer in 2nd, Isma in 3rd. There is Max Wiesel in 4th place, H-Eagle in 5th. He has to pit, of course, so you'll be expecting Santeri, Matthew Older, the 2 Aston Martins of Cornet and Denurco, and Philip Valtters, who's currently rounding out the points. You'll be expecting them to make light work of the Red Bull sooner rather than later, and it's going to be difficult here because Eagle Hadler's going to want to help his teammate out. I'm not sure how he's going to be able to do it though, because Santeri's got the DRS and will be able to streak straight down the inside into the final corner, and I imagine Eagle's not going to fight too hard against his teammate. He's not exactly making this easy for him though. Compromised Older's line coming out the final corner, and didn't make it hard, but didn't exactly do any favours for his teammate. So Matthew Older is now up into 6th place. Lars and Fusilio were battling as well, so Lars has taken the actual lead of this race, and Santeri, now that he's had a bit of DRS and Max hasn't, has been able to close that gap right down all of a sudden. He's back within a second.
Yeah, back within, like you say, the DRS of H Eagle on that lap gained back all the time he'd maybe lost when Max got the move done. So, yeah, Santeri getting through nicely, but now he's got to try and nail this first sector and keep within range of the Ferrari, which he has just about done so. So, it's advantage Santeri once again at the moment, back in DRS range if he can keep it, as Brock is the next driver to retire in the pit lane, unfortunately. So, 2 out of the race for the time being. Yeah, Santeri now with the advantage once again. The person that's compromised now, though, is the 2 Aston Martins. They're stuck behind H Eagle in the first sector. They've got to get through on H Eagle quickly and make sure that the net top 3 in this race don't pull away as H Eagle slams the wall coming out of turn 17 with his wheels. Cornet's maybe going to try and get the move done before turn 22. He's going to get down the inside here. Easy move done. Cornet is through. Doesn't need to wait for DRS. He had that much grip coming out of the corner. He breezes past H Eagle, and I imagine Janerko's probably going to do the same here with a lot more ERS. Yeah, the straight line speed deficit of that Red Bull was massive, and there goes Janerko down the inside. It should be a fairly easy move into turn 27.
Yeah, Janerko has got that move done, then getting ahead of H Eagle. Cornet, unsurprisingly, burning through his ERS to importantly get back within the DRS range of those front few drivers, so that is good for him. Lars Kramer gone for a very early pit stop here, end of lap number 12, putting on a set of soft tyres. You don't usually see the softs going longest than a set of medium tyres, but that is what he's going for. Hadler just slowing down. That is the cause of the yellow flag on the straight, as we've got a bit of debate in the chat. Who's better, Max or Matthew Older? So far this season, you've got to say Matthew. So far this race, though, Max is putting on a fantastic performance. 6/10 of a second clear of Santeri. It is a better second stint, though, from the Red Bull driver. Despite that 3-second time penalty, I wouldn't count him out at the moment because others will get penalties. And proving that point, there is Cornet, his first 3-second time penalty. That will drop him, as things stand at the moment, would drop him possibly behind Oggiano outside of the points. Always something the drivers have got to be careful of, and they're going to have to be cautious if there's a safety car, because that bunches them up more, and that makes these 3-second time penalties even more costly.
Yeah, it definitely does, doesn't it? It makes it more costly, and what that does do at the moment is Oggiano and Jensen swap places now. I don't know if Jensen's made a slight mistake somewhere, but yeah, Oggiano through now up into the top 10. What that does do, though, is it puts Janerko in a very good position. He's in a net third at the moment now with both Matthew Older and Cornet with time penalties. And all of a sudden, Philip Wouters is now within play of this race as well. In a net fourth with the penalties of the drivers in front of him. We haven't really paid attention to the Williams driver in this race. He pitted a lap earlier than Matthew and Cornet did, kind of out of sight and out of mind, and has got himself into a net fourth in this race. He's got no ERS to play with, but either way, he is still sitting in a pretty comfortable position as Santeri down the inside towards turn number 1 is back into the net lead of the race. So those 3 laps where Max was wasting his ERS, it didn't really work, and Santeri's back ahead of the Ferrari once again. On that lap as well, Lars Kramer, when he came out of the pit lane, was 4.5 seconds behind H Eagle, was now 3 seconds behind. So he's in a lot of clean air, and actually, he's a lot closer to the train than I thought he'd be. So now we get to see the true pace of the softs and whether he can close back into the train or not.
Yeah, see how they do throughout this race. See if he can pick himself up the fastest lap, and if he gets into the top 10, of course, he will get that bonus fastest lap point. The point scoring system, for those who are unaware, is slightly different to what they use in Formula 1. The top 10 still get points, but it is 16 for a winner, 12 for second, 10 for third place, and then 8 for 6 for fifth place, down to 1 for 10th, with that bonus point for fastest lap inside the top 10. And speaking about Wouters again, I'm not too surprised he's putting in a good performance. He has had a podium, let's not forget, earlier this season, and that was at Monaco. At the moment, though, looks like he's not going to be attacking for that podium place. Looks like he might be doing a bit of defending, because Fabi is all over the back of him in that Ferrari. Rear wing open on both of these cars, but Fabi has got a lot more ERS and has got a much better run round the outside of turn number 26. Gets ahead before the break-in's over 27, and that is Fabi up into 8th place. Maybe let's not count him out for a possible attempt at the podium later on. Back towards the lead, though. It is Santeri for now. I think very soon we are going to see Max Wiesel go for it. Doesn't decide to go down the inside. Quite content to just stay behind. And now that this is for the actual lead, now that all the drivers have come into the pits, we're going to see a bit more tactics, and I think a bit more cat and mouse driving, especially for the next 5 or 6 laps.
Yeah, definitely think so. We're going to see a lot more of it, aren't we? We're going to see Max Wiesel kind of waiting in behind. And I think the good thing for Max here is that both of the 2 drivers directly behind him have penalties. So as it stands, they're not a threat in this race. So Max can just sit behind Santeri, build up his ERS, and not worry about being challenged from behind. So he's sitting in a pretty comfortable position. But at the same time, Santeri's not burning through his ERS to lead this race. He's sitting around halfway on his ERS at the moment and is doing a pretty good job. And to say that this is only his second race in this top tier of this division is saying something, isn't it, about the Alfa Romeo driver? He's doing a brilliant job so far. So we'll see if he can cling on to the end of the race, but he's got really, really good race pace. And Fabi as well. Fabi's going to be a real threat in this race. He's straight onto the back of Dinerco. That Ferrari is incredibly fast in a straight line. He completely obliterates track limits at turn 22, but he's onto the back of Dinerco trying to push the Aston Martin now. So maybe Fabi's the one to look out for in this race.
Yeah, if this was F1 2019, we'd probably be saying something about an illegal engine in the back of that Ferrari, because they're both flying at the moment. Lars Kramer has finally managed to work his way past H. Eagle up into the points. I don't know if we've actually seen Lars get into the points so far this season. He's not exactly had the best of season so far. No, 11th place, his best result, and that was at the Hungarian Grand Prix. So definitely a good opportunity for Lars to get his first point of the season. Max Wiesel has retook the lead in this race, but with that lack of ERS, Santeri is looking good, and it is all going to depend on when the drivers go for the lead. They can't afford to be waiting around too much though, because Matthew, Cornet, Daneco, Fabi, Valtters, Jensen, Oggiano are all in this DRS train, and I think in the next 4 or 5 laps we'll be seeing the McLaren of Lars gaining onto the back of them as well. Oggiano picks up a time penalty. H. Eagle picks up a time penalty. That is the situation at the moment, all on 3 seconds with the black and white flag next to their name, apart from Fusilio, who is on 6 seconds, so any chance of him getting points looks exceptionally slim at this moment in time as they fling the cars around 16-17 for the 16th time out of 25 in this race, and we're still none the wiser as to who is going to take the victory here in the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Thank you to everyone who's joining us from the F3 and F2 streams as well. I'm sure you've seen some fantastic races there, and hopefully the last 9 laps here are going to live up to your expectations as well, as Cornet just closes in to the back of Matthew Aldo with the DRS though. You'd expect Matthew to be safe this time around. Far behind, a bit further back on Dinerco, who almost crashed into the back of his teammate there, which would not have been ideal going into the final corner. Are we going to see another swap for the lead then? Santeri all over the back of Max Wiesel. Is he going to send one into turn number 1? No, decides this time around he's going to stay where he is, and it is status quo as they come on to lap 17.
Yeah, Isma now fastest lap of the race as well, 29.1 on the soft compound tyres, so he's starting to work his way back towards a possible points finish in this race, so trying to salvage something. I think the good thing for him, at least at the moment, is that Matthew Alder is looking set to score at the bottom half of the top 10, so he's not going to lose too much as it stands. It's Max who's looking very good championship-wise. Of course, he is still a factor in this championship, third at the moment, so he would take over second from Isma as it stands if the race were to finish like this. I was surprised, though, to see Max go for the move that early on, because now that he leads the race, he's now the one in a vulnerable position, and it gives Santeri the opportunity to save his ERS. So I was surprised to see Max go for the lead that early, but you can definitely tell from Dinerco upwards, they're all just starting to push that little bit more. Fabi's laying back a little bit, maybe waiting to see what will happen in front and picking up the scraps, but Dinerco's really pushing his teammate, who's now starting to push Matthew Alder as well.
Yeah, I mean, these Aston Martins, they can try and work together at the moment. How much teamwork you can do around a circuit like this, I'm not sure. Whether you try and swap Dinerco and Cornet round to allow Dinerco ahead, seeing as he's not got the penalty, to see if he can attack Matthew, and then maybe even attack Santeri and Max Wiesel as well, as Santeri almost pushing Max Wiesel through the final corner, and Dinerco trying to, I think, scare his teammate into making a mistake. For a second, I thought he was going to go for the dive bomb into that final corner. Top 4 cars separated by 0.7 of a second. Santeri again pulls out, can't go for the move this time around. Someone who might go for the move though is Jensen, trying to go around the outside of Philip Valtters. Can't make that one work. Fusilio and Isma swapping places for 11th, 12th. These need to work together to try and get onto the back of Lars, and then to try and get onto the back of this 9-car train we've got for the lead of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. We told you it was going to be pretty close. We told you wouldn't know until the very final stages who is going to take the victory, and we are still none the wiser here. If you're a bit further back in the train though, you've got to start making your moves round about now.
Yeah, you've got to start going for it, haven't you? You can't sit around and wait any longer. There's not a lot left in this race, and this race has absolutely flown by, with the track being so long but the time being so short and there being so few laps. This is the fastest race of the season in terms of time, so there's a lot less time than you think there would be around a track like this. So yeah, they need to start getting their moves on now. Fabi again right on the back of Dinerco, trying to push the Aston Martin maybe into a mistake, and I've been keeping an eye on those on the softs. Isma's got no pace on those softs at all. I don't know if he's hit the wall somewhere and damaged his car, but he's overtaken by Fusilio and then immediately dropped by Fusilio. So he's got no pace at all. Alars is falling away from the medium train. So those are alternate strategies just aren't fast. The alternate strategy has not worked at all. They've got no pace. So yeah, really, really bizarre race from those on the alternate strategy. I expected them to be somewhat of a factor in this race, but they've been anything but that. They've kind of just been bystanders to the rest of the drivers battling further up, as Jensen now gets them moved on and Philip Wouters. Wouters crucially losing DRS on that lap, so he seems to be the one struggling, and Jensen now up into 7th.
I mean, he was the first one to come into the pits. Let's not forget, Philip Wouters got himself ahead of a few cars on this train because he came into the pits a few laps earlier, and he's now maybe starting to play the price for that. Asa Combs coming into the pits. He's tapped the wall on the previous lap, so perhaps the front wing change, perhaps just going for a glory run on the fastest lap. He might be thinking what could have been for him. He was second earlier on before he had that spin. And yeah, Isma just with no pace whatsoever. It's going to be another difficult race for a man who won the first race of the season, was leading the championship. As things stand at the moment, he's going to drop behind Max Wiesel into 3rd place and needs to be careful. I don't think he could drop any more than that, but he's really going to drop off the back of Matthew Alder, who still, despite having that penalty, still looking good to extend his championship lead. As things stand, he would drop, I believe, into 7th position at the moment, but still 6 and a bit laps to go. Still time to change as they fling their way through 25 and 26 for the 90th time out of 25. 6 more times they're going to make their way around here. I think 6 more times we're going to be left guessing as to who is going to take the victory at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Max, Santeri, Matthew, Corney, Denerko, Farby, Jensen, Walters, Oggiano, all in this train, all extremely close. As Santeri, don't know whether he wants to go for it, but I don't think he's been left with a choice. Down the inside he goes into turn number 1. Matthew Alder tries to follow through as well. There's a bit of wheel banging between the two of them. That gets Max Wiesel a time penalty, and that almost opens up the door for Corney. They're side by side on the run towards turn number 4. Max Wiesel now, he's got a time penalty, so this is looking brilliant for Santeri, but it would not surprise me if that gets removed.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if he was kind of forced off the road a bit by the Red Bull. So, yeah, would not be surprised if that penalty is removed for Max Wiesel. But either way, that if it's not, that is costly for the Ferrari driver. He was looking in such a good position in this race, and now he drops further down. And it continues to play into the hands of Denerko at the moment, doesn't it? Sitting in 5th, not really doing anything, because biding his time, while the drivers in front of him make mistakes and pick up penalties. And he's now sitting in a net 2nd on the road. Cornet a little bit slow there through 15 and 16, so I wouldn't be surprised if Denerko tries the move on his teammate now just to try and get closer to the front of the field. Max Wiesel, though, crucial here. He's burning a lot of his ERS coming up to turn 22. Can he get back within DRS range? Just about. He just gets within. That was very close, though, and yeah, could be a costly mistake there. We'll see if it gets removed. It likely will do, but if it doesn't, that just again helps Matthew Alder in the championship. And there you go, Denerko down the inside of Cornet. Cornet derating. Denerko now finally on the move.
Yeah, Denerko finally making the move past his teammate. He's in 4th position. He's 1.9 seconds off the lead. Can he work his way past Matthew Alder, Max Wiesel and Santeri in the final 5 laps? It will be an absolutely storming drive by the Aston Martin driver. He's on for his 3rd podium in a row as Oggiano round the outside of Philip Walters, who just seems to be struggling on traction out of that final corner. He hasn't got a penalty, so we'll stand to gain some places anyway, but that is Walters down into 9th place. He's now the sole Williams in this race as Isma has retired in the pits. I think Shawley must have had some damage on that car. Unfortunately, it wasn't showing it us on the TAS system. He's out of the race, and that is a big blow to his championship chances. Still, though, 8 races to go after tonight, so still anything could really happen. Only just approaching the halfway point of the season. Freddie, he picks up a first time penalty. That's not going to affect anything. Max Wiesel has got back within range of Santeri, and he's still going to go for this, of course, because I think, like us, he's going to be thinking, if I get the victory out on track, get that penalty removed, that is our first win of the season. But I think we can safely say, with Matthew having 3 seconds of time penalties and Isma being out of this race, we are going to get our 3rd different victor.
Yeah, definitely looks like it, doesn't it? It's just a case of, can Max get it on the road and get that penalty removed, or can Santeri hold on? That is pretty much the case at the point. Denerko's still got 2 cars in his way to really battle for this win, and now here comes Fabi on the back of Cornet, trying to get it moved on the Aston Martin, trying to go round the outside of turn 27. That would be a lovely move if he can pull it off, Denurko leaves him just enough space, and Fabi will get another run down the pit straight, and Cornet there just derating a little bit. So has Fabi got enough of a car in a straight line to breeze past? He's got the outside line, which will be the inside for 2. He actually brakes so late that he nearly runs into the back of Denurko and has to cut across the front of Cornet. They just get away with it. Very forceful for Fabi. That could be a penalty coming his way. He's still around the outside of Cornet. Is going to make it around the outside as he goes off the track completely to complete the move. Oh, I wouldn't be surprised if that's an illegal overtake there from the Ferrari driver. It was bold. He tried to go for the move and nearly killed the back of Denurko's car.
Times like this, I wish I had an FIA radio graphic with Aston Martin on, because I think that'd have been popped up instantly with that one. And yeah, Fabi perhaps wisely letting Cornet by. I think he knows he wouldn't have been able to keep that position and would have done himself more harm than good, because he is still on for a 3rd place in Fabi. He is still on for a podium, which would be a fantastic result for him to go along with the podium that he got at Silverstone. Still, though, could get himself a time penalty, and Jensen not too far behind him either. But it is Santeri in the lead of this race, half a second ahead of Max Wiesel, who has a penalty, 7 tenths ahead of Matthew Older, who has a penalty, 1.1 seconds ahead of Daneyko, who doesn't have a penalty, but has got 2 cars in between him and the Alfa Romeo. And passing 3 cars in 3 laps to get your first ever top tier victory is going to be an extremely tall order indeed. Max Wiesel thinks about the move down the inside on Santeri, can't do it. Fabi has got the move done on Cornet, more conventionally this time, so that promotes him into 5th place. And Matthew Older is all over the back of Max Wiesel here. We could be 3 wide towards the first corner. The Ferrari takes the lead of the race, but for how long for? Matthew Older thinks about the move down the inside, can't quite make it stick though, and Santeri was in 1st place, all of a sudden finds himself down in 3rd.
Yeah, down into 3rd place now, and that now leaves Santeri vulnerable to Denurko and Fabi behind you. Don't have penalties as well, and that could have just sealed Santeri's fate in this race, because if Matthew Older just sticks behind the Ferrari now, Santeri's not really got an opportunity to win this race, and on track at least, unless they're really tight and they go for another 3-wide move like we just saw. So yeah, Santeri caught out there big time, and that's going to be a real struggle for him. Fusilio now with 9 seconds of penalty, so his chance of points completely gone as Asakone retires in the pit lane now. Yeah, I fear with that move for Matthew Older down the inside, Santeri's opportunity at winning this race may have just slipped through his fingers.
Yeah, definitely winning on track is going to be exceptionally hard now. Winning on penalties all depends on what happens with Max and Matthew Older. I mean, who knows, Matthew could have had a penalty that he feels he was shoved off track earlier on and might be able to get one removed. He is on 5 seconds though, so I think he's more worried now about not picking up a 6-second time penalty rather than getting any removed. Here's Daneyko though, all over the back of Santeri. I said he did have 3 cars to pass if he wanted to take the victory. Well, Matthew and Max have now escaped off into the distance, so possibly only has to get ahead of Santeri. Takes that wider line, later apex, into the final corner. All about getting the car straightened up earlier, all about getting more traction to try anything into turn number 1, but he's not able to do so at the moment. These front 4, you can throw a handkerchief over all of them at the moment. H-Eagle picks up a 3-second time penalty. Oggiano and Jensen battling side by side in the Alpines. Let's not forget, in real life, Ocon was up there for the lead of the race at one point after the red flag in 2021. They're not going to win the race this time, but could still get a very good result, could Oggiano, and especially Jensen, who doesn't have any time penalties. But it is Max Wiesel leading, 1.5 laps to go. Matthew Older in 2nd, but Santeri, Daneyko and Fabi, that is the battle for the victory.
Yeah, that is the battle, isn't it? They're the only ones that have really kept it clean in this race. It's all between them and to what they can do in the latter stages of this race. But we've only got a lap and a half to go. So if Max can get that penalty removed, Santeri needs to get a move on now. He needs to try and get past that Ferrari as quickly as he possibly can if Max feels that penalty is unjust. We'll wait and see. And Denurko right there, you can see he's just slowly creeping towards the Alfa Romeo. He's getting closer and closer, and Fabi's there to pick up the scraps. So he's played it till the very last moment, but Denurko is now right there when he needs to be, and he's got a brilliant run out of 22. Santeri could have been caught napping here. This is Denurko's opportunity.
Yeah, this could be a chance for Daneyko. We've got the helicam shot. He's going to try it all the way around the outside into turn number 27. Can't quite get close enough. Santeri goes for a half-hearted move there, I think, on Matthew Older.
Whoa.
Max Wiesel has gone deep. Daneyko's gone round the outside of Santeri, and he might have better traction here on Matthew Older. Can't quite get it done so. Santeri's got tremendous straight line speed, though, in the Alfa Romeo. Onto the final lap of the race. Matthew Older down the inside of Max Wiesel. Takes the lead. Daneyko up into 3rd. That takes the net lead if it isn't for any penalties. And the battling continues once more. Oggiano getting ahead of Cornet as well. That will be a position gained later on. So it is now Matthew Alder in the lead, Max Wiesel in second, Danerco in third, keeps it clean. He could be getting his first ever top tier victory.
Yeah, it could be on, couldn't it? It looks like it is on now. I think Max was so desperate to let Matthew Alder go and give him the DRS down that pit straight, because of course the detection point is after 27, and they both lifted off, and Santeri on the inside just got stuck in a box and couldn't move, and Danerco around the outside took full advantage of it. So yeah, Santeri really caught out there by the two leaders trying to play DRS chicken with one another, and neither one of them wanting to budge really, and Max just slapped the wall coming out of turn 15. He is pushing as hard as he possibly can to try and get to the back of the Red Bull and pass him on track, but at the moment it looks like it could be Danerco's now.
Yeah, it does look like it could be Danerco. Santeri is all over the back of Danerco though. We'll have to see how he does on the ERS here. Max Wiesel all over the back of Matthew Alder. He's going to have to go for the outside line. That was a very late move from Max Wiesel. He's managed to pull it off though all the way around the outside, so he's going to be heading towards the finish line. Should have the traction to take the checkered flag first here as he weaves his way down the straight. It is going to be Max Wiesel who takes the checkered flag first, but it is Danerco who claims victory for the first time here in the top tier of PSGL. Santeri in second place, Fabi in third, Jensen fourth, Max Wiesel ends up in fifth place. He might still be able to get a penalty removed, let's not forget. Matthew Alder is sixth, Wouters, Cornet, Oggiano, Lars getting his first point of the season, and then Fusilio, Fede and H-Eagle will be the final finishers. As we expected, a dramatic end to the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, but it is Danerco. He's gone third 2 races ago. He was second last time out at Austria. He's completed the run. He takes the victory here at Jeddah.
Yeah, brilliant performance from Danerco, and he just patiently waited his time, didn't he? The rest of the drivers in front kind of fell over one another, and he sat that whole race in fifth and just took advantage of the mistakes on the drivers in front when he needed to. He didn't need to win it on track. He kept it clean. He didn't put himself in any tricky situations, and it played beautifully for him. So really, really smart driving there from Danerco. We'll wait and see if Max gets his penalty removed, but he was pushing so much in those last laps. I worry if he's picked up yet more warnings, and in that sense may have just ruined his own race by pushing too hard to beat Matthew Alder on track. He might have just lost his opportunity to get that penalty removed. Yeah,
I'm just checking. It does say he's got 4 warnings at the moment, so unless he can get 2 warnings removed, I think we could say these could well be. There's still provisional results, but I would be very surprised to see any major changes here. It is Danerco who, you'd think, pointed to his lips, he'd be doing more of a smiley face after taking his first victory of the season. Santeri, only his second race coming up from F2, gets a podium, and I think that shows the quality that is throughout PSGL here. Even if you're not in the top tier, you can still be an exceptionally good driver. Fabi gets another podium in third place. Jensen, good result for him in fourth. Max Wiesel fifth. Matthew Alder sixth, still extends his championship lead. Wouters in seventh. Cornet points again in eighth. Oggiano's ninth. Lars picking up his first points of the season. And then it's Fusilio, Fede, H-Eagle, Asagome was retired from the race, as was Isma, Brock, and we saw Casper retire quite early on. Had a feeling that Saudi Arabia would deliver, and it definitely didn't disappoint, Aiden.
No, definitely didn't point. It was a game of strategy, really, that race, wasn't it? It wasn't about being the all-out fastest. It was about timing all your overtakes correctly and making sure you got them all done cleanly as well. It was a brilliant race, and with it being 25 laps and no safety cars, it absolutely flew by, didn't it? My word. It's only 9:10. Where's the time gone? That absolutely flew by without a care in the world. It was like that race was almost a 25% race. It went so quickly.
Yeah, man. Some of the battling you saw, you might have thought it was a 5-lapper as well. And talk us through, again, that moment we were on about. Santeri perhaps just quite a bit unlucky with, similar to what we saw in F1 Esports at USA, where they were playing DRS chicken with each other. It didn't work out for Nicolas Longue in the esports race at USA. And here, Max letting Matthew Alder by, Matthew trying to slow down a bit as well. And Santeri sort of just the innocent party there, stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah, I do feel really bad for Santeri in that situation, because he was defending from Danerco, of course, who was pushing quite hard, and Max was on the outside line for turn 27, I think lifted off midway through 27, very clearly trying to give the DRS to Matthew Alder, but Matthew Alder was having absolutely none of it, saw it coming from a mile off, and they both slowed up so much that Santeri defending the inside line just got boxed in, and it allowed the opportunity for Danerco to drive clean around the outside of the Alfa Romeo, and that, unfortunately, is where Santeri lost that race. Without that little bit of DRS checking between the two leaders who both had penalties at that point in the race, then surely Santeri should have won that race. So I do feel really bad for him. But either way, a second place finish on your second race in the division is a really good result. He can take a lot away from that. And the fact that he was battling the likes of Max Wiesel and Matthew Older the whole way through that race is really promising for him.
Yeah, I mean, we're hoping to get the top 3 drivers in. Unfortunately, Santeri has said he's going to be unable to join us, but he has said that last corner, lap 24, FFS. I don't think I need myself to translate what that means for everyone, but he's definitely a bit annoyed with how that final, the penultimate lap of that race went, but in the end, still a delightful performance for him. And we say it so many times, if you keep it clean on penalties, you've always got a chance, and it's no coincidence that the top 4 drivers, only drivers in the top part of the field, not to have any time penalties.
Yeah, and it was bizarre. The ones that we did see get penalties are the ones you would usually count on to not do that. So Max obviously was maybe forced off the road, but either way, he's picked up another warning beyond that. So it's possible his penalty won't get removed. And of course, championship leader Matthew Older picking up a penalty when you wouldn't necessarily expect it. It's, bizarre to see drivers that strong that are at the front of the field consistently picking up the penalties. And I'm not surprised by Danerco, but Santeri only in his second race in a completely different field, and Fabi as well, who's not had the strongest run as of recently. All 3 of them not picking up a penalty, and Jensen, the other one as well, I think, who ended up in 4th position. So, yeah, brilliant drives from all 4 of those drivers to keep it clean and keep with the front-running pace.
Yeah, and what was at one bit, let's not forget early on, Matthew got that penalty after about lap 4 or 5. Isma was on the back of that DRS train. We were wondering what he could do. I think in the end, Matthew has still actually extended his championship lead up to, I believe, 23 points now from 18. So he'll still be, I don't think he'll be too disappointed with the way things have gone today. But we are going to head our way into the interviews. Then we have got a driver in there waiting for us, and it is the man who finished in 3rd place, a second podium of the season then for Fabi. And you pretty much spent that entire race stuck in a DRS train.
First of all, you scared the shit out of me. You were so freaking loud. Thank you very much. It's a good way to end this race after the last 3 poor races. Got a bit of luck because of the time penalties from Matthew and Max, and yeah, I'm happy before my holiday break, 4 weeks break.
Yeah, definitely. You seem to be one of the drivers that was doing more moves into the final corner rather than the first corner. Is there any particular reason for that?
I just wanted that the drivers in front of me can't save their ERS so much, so I want them to put them under pressure to use their ERS. That was the only reason. I wasn't going for a tech move.
Definitely worked out for you, equaling your best result of the season, which you got at Silverstone. Aidan, any questions for our 3rd place finisher?
I think we maybe both Luke and I noticed it in the race, but your Ferrari seemed to be particularly fast in a straight line. Was that a setup choice from you? Did you go for something a bit faster in a straight line?
Maybe not that much. I think I got 5 slipstreams from the cars in front of me. maybe that is the reason.
Yeah, definitely did like that. And of course, I'll ask the question I ask everybody every week at this point. But Belgium next time out, how are you feeling about Belgium?
I'm going to holiday for 4 weeks. I'm not there for Belgium. I'm back after Easter.
Yeah, back after Easter. But, well, that's a great way to round off the first half of the season for you then before going off to holiday. So congratulations on your second podium of the season.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, definitely. Congratulations, Fabi. Enjoy your holiday. Make sure to bring everyone back a souvenir. We'd definitely appreciate that. We'll let you head off and celebrate your podium. And we'll bring in the man who took his first victory of the season. It is Danerco. Definitely made to work for that one, but keeping it clean, proving to be important. Just tell us about what happened going into the final corner on lap 24.
Yeah, it was a bit of a mess. I think Max just slowed down to get the rest from Matthew, and I just took the chance and go around the outside of Santa, and then I just managed my battery in the last lap, and it was really difficult because I expected more from the overcut, and I didn't gain any time, and then Fabi. He had a rocket in the straight. He had 5.6 wings. I had a 9.6. So Yeah, the rocket, so it was difficult to defend. I had to use a bit of ERS, and then as I saw that Santeri didn't had a penalty, I just thought I need to pass him, and I went for the move in the penultimate lap, and it paid off. So feels good.
Yeah, definitely. Good result for yourself. That is now your 4th podium of the season, tied with the most podiums we've seen anyone get so far with our championship leader, Matthew Alder. Do you think you can possibly challenge for the championship this year? Still over half the season to go.
I don't know. I just need to be consistent. I lost a bit of points in Monaco, where I broke my front wing in first corner, and then I had very little practice for all races. I did like 4 lobbies for this one, and same went for the previous race. So I don't know. We will see. I will just try to be consistent.
Yeah, definitely. You seem to be doing fairly consistent so far. I'll pass you over to Aiden for any questions.
Yeah, I was about to ask for the championship as well, so you've stolen that question from right underneath me. But I'll ask you about Belgium, obviously coming up next for round 8, midway point of the season. How are you feeling about Belgium?
We had challengers in Belgium, and it was quite good, not that bad. And in quali was a bit fast, but I like a bit of the race. And after the challenger race, I also understood that I have a bit of slow top speed, so I can make changes to the setup now that I know.
Yeah, brilliant. Challengers, perfect practice with PSGL. That's everything the right way around. And I think I asked you this question, I think, last week. Obviously your 3rd podium of the season. But has your target now for the season changed now that you've got that first win under your belt? Has the goalpost moved at any point, or are you still taking it race by race?
No, it's just race by race. I think I'll try to make the best possible result, and we will see later. Maybe in the next race I crash and it's over. So.
Well, you've cursed yourself now. Unbelievable. But yeah, congratulations on your 4th podium of the season and your first win as well. Brilliant stuff.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Yeah, congratulations to Daneko and Fabi on their win and 3rd place, respectively. Congratulations to Santeri as well, who was unfortunately unable to join us for the interviews. And that is pretty much it then for this stream. An absolutely fantastic race tonight at Saudi Arabia. And as we've already spoken about, next time around, our final race before the 1-week break again, it is going to be the Belgian Grand Prix. Another circuit where it's all going to be about the DRS, this time down the Kemmel Straight. Could well be another fantastic final lap.
Yeah, definitely could be, couldn't it? It's going to be a really interesting track. I don't want to say it, but I worry we may have some more weather interference next time out. Every time we come to a track where it's possible, it happens. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get our 5th weather interfered race with this season. But either way, Belgium's a great track. It's always been great for racing. So yeah, either way, we'll get a good race.
Yeah, and we have finally got our 3rd different winner of the season. None of the top 3 in the championship managing to get a podium. Could you see another mixed up result in Belgium?
I think it's definitely possible. It's definitely possible. I think the alternate strategy will play more of a part in Spa than we saw today. Of course, the alternate strategy didn't really play a part at all in today's race, so that will definitely come into hand. And it's a difficult track, so it is possible we could see safety cars next time out. There are a few places we could see drivers go off, so there could be plenty of interference. And yeah, I think Daneko now, after that one, I think has definitely established himself as a front runner. He could be right up there in the championship. So is he now maybe the dark horse in this standings?
Yeah, very possibly indeed. Has got himself up into that 3rd place in the standings. Matthew Alder extends his championship lead, but tonight is Daneko's night. The Italian claiming his first win ever in the top tier here and PSGL. Will he make it another victory in Belgium, or will we see Matthew or Isma return to form? We will find out, of course, in a week's time. Before that, though, there is the PC tier with Jarno Opmeer leading the championship after a superb run at Jeddah. Can he follow that up at Spa as well? Make sure to check that one out on Wednesday at 7 p.m. with Ginger Andy and Dan Field. Rest of the PC tiers are on the Thursday, as well as the lower PS tiers, and there will also be PlayStation Action on Sunday and the Monday with myself and Aiden at 8 PM. Thank you so much to the drivers for joining us for the interviews. Thank you to our sponsors, Grid Rival. Make sure to check them out down in the description below. Thanks to Aiden for joining me in the commentary box, and thank you so much to all you guys. We wouldn't do it without you, and hopefully we'll see you in a week's time at Spa for the Belgian Grand Prix. But for myself and Aiden, take care of yourselves and goodbye.